Hello, and welcome back to the Place for Artists. I have finally finished this monster of a piece. Over the course of the past 8 days and about 28 hours of painting, I have finally finished the largest watercolor painting I've ever created over the course of my 12-year watercolor journey. If you haven't seen the first part to this video, you can go ahead and click the video up in the card and check it out there. If not, don't worry, don't fear. You're going to be getting all the golden nuggets in this video anyways. So to sum up this piece of artwork that I created, back in summer when we had our heat wave, we had 100-degree plus weather. Everybody and their families were at the lakes, and we went up to our favorite lake in the mountains, and we found this spot that wasn't too busy. It had this beautiful, gorgeous deck and a really nice mountain view. But that was really the motivation and the inspiration for this piece, because I was just really missing summer, and I just wanted to be able to hang it on my wall and look at it and feel like I was back in summertime. So I ended up spending about 3 or 4 days coming up with the concept and sketching out this piece. I didn't really count this towards the painting in the 8 days in total, but it really was like 12 days if you're going to count the concept and sketching of the piece. So I did end up using a reference. I did find this really nice reference that really mimicked the exact lake I had gone to. So I used that as a lot of inspiration, and then I kind of just added in my own flair, chose my own colors, and just kind of used it for the position of the person in the piece. So once I had transferred the piece, it was time to start watercolor painting. Now, when I chose the pencil to transfer the artwork onto my watercolor paper, I ended up choosing like this sepia color. It was kind of like a orangey color because I thought I was going to do a more summery sunset feel, but I ended up going for a very bright and vibrant look, and I really wish I would have thought my concept a little more through, because I would have chosen like a very pale blue or something to line the shirt, and then, you know, a brown or a lighter tan to line the skin areas. And then I definitely would have chosen a nice black to line the black pants and black shoes, because let me tell you, trying to purposely and perfectly reline pieces of the artwork with opaque watercolors or a gouache, it was extremely difficult. So I wish I would have thought that through a little bit more, but besides that, I kind of moved on to the next concept and I kind of fixed it at the end. Now, unlike other painting mediums, it's really easy to just kind of paint layer on layer, regardless if you're painting with dark paint or light paint. Unfortunately, watercolors are a little more difficult than that. Watercolors are a transparent medium, so that means you cannot put a light color over a pre-existing dark color. So you really have to plan out your highlights and your shadows. So I spent a lot of time carefully focusing on the shadows and the shadows only, because I didn't want to make things too light or too dark and make the values too similar so you couldn't distinguish the foreground from the midground from the background. So working in many layers, I've probably done over 1,000 layers on this piece of artwork. I decided to work on the background first. Like I explained earlier, I wanted to focus on the sky and the mountains because I wanted to make sure that the things in the foreground stood out from those. Now, if you ever, I don't know where you live, but when you look out into the mountains where I live, it gets this really beautiful blue cast on it, and it almost is not quite a dark shadow, but it's not quite blue, and it's like you can see the greens through the mountains. So I really tried to capture that into the background, so when I worked on the foreground and the character, she would really stand out and pop against the background. So after finishing the mountains and the sky, it was time to work on the water. Now, with the body of water, I spent a lot of time practicing and studying waves, how they function, how they reflect different lights, what shallow water looks like versus deep water, and I took all of that in. I really studied the shapes of the waves, and that's when I really tried to capture that subtle wave and movement into the water. Now, after I finished up the water, it's time to work on the deck. Now, with the deck, I kind of wanted to make it feel very worn and authentic. So from my experience with the deck that we saw at the lake, I noticed that you get that algae, a little bit of blue reflecting from the sky, a little bit of green, and the tinge of the tan wood. So I tried to play around and I added those colors in, and I can say that really made the deck stand out. And the last thing to do on the deck was to create a dark shadow to really make the Sunny and the character pop. So I added in the shadow for the legs, and that was the end of the deck. Now it's time to move on to the main focus of the piece, the character. This is where I was so happy I didn't go that dark with the background in the mountains and the sky, because one thing I noticed was, since you have that blue cast on the mountains, blacks look like true blacks in the foreground. So I tried to give that blue cast to the background so her backpack and her body would really stand out against that background. This is also where I kind of added in one of my New Year's resolutions, and that was to create multimedia pieces of artwork. Now, I am a watercolor primary artist, but I do like to use colored pencils to add in different shadows, and I like to use gouache to bring back highlights that I might have lost when watercolor painting. One thing that I want to express to you guys is just how long it took me to create this piece of artwork. Typically, I can film and do a whole piece of artwork in less than 5 hours, but this time I didn't really want to sacrifice the quality of my artwork just so I could get a video out in time, which is why it's been 2 weeks since my last upload. So one thing I made sure to do was not rush my piece. As I said, I want to not sacrifice the quality of my artwork just to put a video out, which is why it's been a couple of weeks. So whenever I felt tired or I felt like I was rushing my piece, I would decide just to put it down and wait to the next day, so I was always working on a fresh pair of eyes. Working in this fashion of fresh eyes versus tired eyes, I don't think I would have ever been able to finish this large of a piece in one sitting. Like, I really would have been painting for 28 hours or 24 hours straight, and I don't think it would have came out as clean, because with fresh eyes, I'm really honing in on those tiny details. I'm not trying to use a single brush. I'm really carefully mixing my colors, and it just really made this piece what it is. So after a total of 34 hours working on this piece of art, from concept to full illustration, I have finally finished the largest and most detailed watercolor piece of painting I've ever created in my 12-year watercolor journey. I have finally finished, and here it is. If you guys want to learn how to paint like this, you can click the video here on the screen, and you can learn your basics to watercolor painting so you can upgrade your artistic skills to the next level. Bye!